Hey, hey, good morning. Okay, make sure the microphone is working and everything is all set. What a crazy morning it's been. It is so cold here. The roads are icing. They canceled school. It's Dallas, y'all. We're not supposed to be this cold. So it's been a little bit interesting around here this morning. A lot of ice on cars, and I don't know what's going on with my hair this morning. I guess it's ready for a trim because now it's starting to misbehave. But anyway, so yeah, it's been crazy around here this morning. And I don't know if like you follow me by text message, if you're one of the classic confidants. I really haven't talked about this, but I've been having some weird health issues recently within the past couple of weeks. And like shortness of breath. And I had a heart issue a few years back. And I'm not happy about that. I am not happy about that at all. So yeah, not making me all thrilled. All right, let me double check, make sure we're still live every place. Yes. But so that's kind of what I've been going through, and it's pretty depressing. But anyway, this too shall pass. It's just helping me getting back on a more healthy scale. I do have an appointment scheduled with the doctor, so I will be going and seeing the doctor to have that checked out. But it was like, oh, I don't have time for this. Just all of a sudden with this shortness of breath stuff, I'm like, it doesn't really seem good. So just upping my health and taking care, just focusing on a little bit more self-care and being a little bit more aware of how my actions and the things that I'm doing are impacting my health. So anyway, blah, blah, blah. How are you guys? Just pray for me. That's all I can say. So how are you doing this morning? What's new in your world? I am now just starting to get back to following the news again. I kind of gave it up for a few months there because things got so crazy, shall we say. And I just didn't want to get caught up into it. And there was so much negativity on social media with groups and people and that type of thing. I just didn't want to get caught up into that. So now I am getting back to watching some news and seeing what's going on in the world. Oh my gosh, I think I was better off not listening to it. So I think I might kind of go on a detox of news again and just kind of keep up with some important local things and just some brief things. But it's kind of one of those issues for me that you go down a bunny trail and it's hard to come back. It's hard to come back. So I just read and read and read and read, and I don't like what I'm reading. So send me something good to read. What is this thing doing here? It's like all of a sudden it's like square. I don't know. Anyway. But I do have, let me see, what do I have going on today? Next week, I do know we have an amazing interview coming up with a transformational coach, I guess you can call her, Dagmar Bryant. What an amazing story she has. She was born in Germany, grew up in Australia, lived in the States for a while, and now she's in the UK, in Lincolnshire, which is north of Cambridge. And a beautiful part is on the East Coast, just a lovely area of the UK. And she has a great story and some amazing advice, and I was taking notes while I was talking to her. So we're talking to Dagmar next week. I just finished an interview with Rosie Aiello, who escaped from a 25-year abusive relationship, and she was living in the Middle East at the time. And her and her daughter made an escape that could probably, it sounds so like a movie, right? Good morning, Amy. Hey, Rick, I'm the same way. It's just not worth it to listen to the news anymore. So I spoke with Rosie Aiello, and I try to keep the talks to 20 to 30 minutes. Well, that's why we had to split this one down with Brenda into two different, part one and part two, because it was 46 minutes long. Rosie's interview, our chat, it wasn't really an interview, our talk was 47 minutes long. So I think what I might do is show the beginning of it here on our live show, and we can talk about it, and then you can listen to the full one on the podcast. Again, like with this interview, the full interview is now on the podcast. So make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Oh, I need one more 5-star interview. Please, can somebody, please, just go give me one more review, because right now I show up as 0 stars. Until you have 5 reviews, on your podcast, you don't show up anywhere. So I need one more review. And a friend of mine's like, you just go write your own review. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. You go write it. She already has. But anyway, so good morning, Liz. And so anyway, I have Rosie Aiello coming up with her story, but she talks a lot about strategies on how to deal with abusive situations, not just a marriage partner, but if you're dealing with a narcissist or a toxic person that's in the workplace or a friend or a family member, what you can do. She had some strategies of how to handle that. So that's coming up. That's in a few weeks. Rochelle Marie, which I think is in 2 weeks. She's an amazing leader that teaches women how to go. Basically, I see what she does as applicable for empty nesters as well. But she teaches women how to go back into the workforce. If you've been at home, she was at home for 12 years with children, went back into the workforce and saw women making mistakes and still acting like moms in the workplace. And I'll explain more. She gets into that more in the interview, but fascinating, just in great information. And this is what she does for a living, is help women get into leadership roles in the workplace by applying the skills they learned being a mom at home. So I have spoken with, and I've got 3 more interviews I'm recording next week. And then we're booked out, I think, a good 3 months in advance. But excuse me, just blessed, excuse me, to speak with these women and hear their stories and learn from them. And they all have strategies. And that's what I say before I book them on the show. I want you to come on the show and I want you to give a strategy. I want to have a nice conversation with you and hear your story and get to know you. But I want people who listen to walk away with things that can apply to their life. And then, of course, we do an extra recording for the VIPs, for Cappuccino members. So make sure that down in the show notes, you can learn more about the Cappuccino members. But they're supposed to be like 5-minute little excerpts. I got this one gal, Kelly Filardo, who is a burn survivor. She was burned over 75% of her body when she was 2 years old, and including her face. And she doesn't have an ear because it was burned off. And they've done stories. There's been a movie done on her life. And she, Goalcast has a little segment that they did on her that has millions of views. So she came away with some strategies. And then I said, let's just do a little 5-minute segment for the VIPs. I think we talked for 15 minutes. So as a VIP, you do get a lot of amazing extras because the extra strategies and the information. So it's not like just an extended interview. It's more strategies and things that they pull from the programs that they sell that they're giving to the VIPs, to our cappuccinos, for free. So it's a good deal. And I just am so excited and I feel so blessed to be able to speak with these people. So far, actually, come to think of it, so far I've just spoken with women. But I think we have some men lined up. I'm not sure. We should. If we don't, send me some information. So today we're going to talk again this will be part 2 of our conversation with Brenda Garcia. Such a delightful and joyful woman of God. And her faith really shines through, and her joy. I mean, she just has the joie de vivre that is contagious. And I can see why so many people love and respect her in Hollywood, because she's just so genuine and real and non-judgmental. She stays in her own lane. And I think that's what she talks about in this episode, about how she lives her faith more on set. I think the first part of the interview was more chit-chatty. But the second part of this interview, she gets into more really being on set and how she lives her life. And then for the VIPs, for our Cappuccino members of the Cafe Club, she does an extended how she lives her faith at home and how she really lives an ascetic life. She lives a not really monastic, but just a very low-key life. So I'm very excited to share the second part of this interview with her, because she was just an absolute delight. All right, so let me make sure that I stay on time, and we will fade to black, and I will do the intro, and we'll get started with part 2 of our interview with Brenda Garcia. In case you missed part 1 of our interview, let me introduce you to Brenda Lorena Garcia. She's a Latina professional stuntwoman. You've seen her in Yellowstone. May not have realized it, falling off of cliffs, jumping into water, but she is a devout Catholic, and she is sharing the stories of her life and how she keeps her faith in Hollywood as she's kicking people through walls and doing all the things that she does, rolling around in cars and whatnot. You've probably seen her and didn't realize it on Nickelodeon. She's been in Ant-Man and the Wasp, Bird Box, for heaven's sakes, Avatar 2, which is coming out next year. She's been in Transformer movies. She did a Penny Dreadful, City of Angels, 911 Lone Star, This Is Us, just to name a few. And my scene that I really, when I watched her reel and it popped out, was this scene that she did in Hawaii Five-0, which is a show that when I have some extra time, I just find it a nice show. And I said, hey, wait a minute, I saw that movie. I saw that scene. So this is part 2 of our interview. And don't forget, the Cappuccino members of the Cafe Club will get even more bonus interview information with Brenda. So make sure that you check out and become a Cappuccino member. All right, let's get into our part 2 of our interview with the delightful Brenda Garcia.
Because you can lose an arm or a leg or something, but your character, your virtue, your soul remains, and that's what actually gets to heaven. Nothing else does.
Right.
So I'm not concerned. I have nothing to worry about. Now, look, there are amazing people, like you know who. Like someone you may have mentioned that I might know who you're talking about. I don't know.
Right.
But we are persecuted for Christ's sake. We are, and I am. Mm-hmm. And maybe some people just won't hire me. That's okay, because I'm living for God and not for man. And that's what matters. That's what He's my happiness, my joy, and my fulfillment. And so long as I know that someone closes a door, God will open 2 more doors for me, and I'm living that. And hallelujah, praise God, because I will keep fighting this good fight, as hard as it is. But I do ask for your prayers, that all of you pray for me, because it's not easy. But
I'm sure you're the minority on set.
No. Oh my goodness, absolutely. I feel like an outsider completely, the total outcast. I do. I don't want to make you see, like, I don't want to make it seem like I'm so like, you know, I mean, people do love me and respect me, and I'm grateful for that. But that's not to say that there's total doors and walls up everywhere else. I mean, I'm very thankful that there's people that just have admired me even before they knew I came out as a Catholic or whatever, because they love me for who I am. And those are some good people, genuinely good people.
Right.
But then there's people who never really cared because of their pride and ego, and that's okay. I'm not here to please man.
So let's give an example. Like, give us a day in the life. So you're on set, and are you just kind of like, I'm just going to live my life quietly, and or, I mean, well, just give me a day in the life, like a situation.
I don't. Thank you. I appreciate that question. I don't premeditate my days like that or plan it out in that sense. I kind of plan my future in a different way as a business entrepreneur type of girl. But that's a different way. I start my day every single day with prayer. God always comes first, and daily mass at 6:30 a.m. Unless I'm called to be at work before 6:30, then I can't. But God understands, and I try to make up for later afternoon. Or it's not like I'm obliged. I just do it because I love God and I thank Him, and I desire the sacraments every day. So that's how I start my day, and then I offer it up to my God, and I say, "May this day go according to Your will." And I go about being my happy, joyful self. I love everybody. I treat them with the utmost respect, like a king and a queen. Why? Because I was raised by a king and a queen. And so long as I know that, I have no reason to mistreat anybody or judge anybody for the way they look at me, for the way they treat me. Besides, that's a reflection of who they are. I say that your perception of me is a reflection of you. My reaction to you is an awareness of me.
Right.
And so at the end of the day, if I feel any mistreatment or some sort of judgment or something harsh, rash coming from someone else, it's not about me, it's about them. It's a
Right.
reflection of who they are. If they don't like to receive someone who exudes joy or happiness and true genuine desire to see people happy and whole and free, then that's their problem, and I'm not going
Mhm.
to force myself or impose my values or beliefs on anyone. I think Saint Francis, this might be attributed to him, says, preach the gospel at all times and when necessary, use words.
Right,
I do my
exactly.
best to not talk. I really
Right.
don't like to talk that much. I mean, I like to talk to you, and there's people I could talk to
Right.
for hours, but I don't go around just saying, look at me, I'm a holy Christian girl. Look how awesome I live my life pious. I don't do that. I'm just happy. I love playing silly games with people. I love being funny. I love being giddy. I'm just trying to be myself, and that's who I am. And being Catholic or Christian didn't take that away from me. It just made me take who I am more seriously in a moral sense,
Mhm.
and for the respect and treatment of others. Because God is great. So that's what it's done for me.
And I feel that way. And people who, there's a lot of time on set where you're just sitting around doing nothing, you
Yeah.
know,
I love
and
making friends with people. I don't
yeah,
care who they are. I don't care if they're a different religious belief. I don't care if they're a different uh, race. I don't care if they're homosexual or transgender. I'm not anyone to judge. That's not my
right,
place. I'm not going to go off and telling people that's not who I am. Now,
right,
now, if I know you, if you're my family, if I loved you for a while, that's a different story. There's fraternal correction involved. But
right,
that's where admonishment comes in. That's a corporal work of mercy. But if I don't know you, I have no place to tell you who you are because I don't know where you stand with God. So that's
right,
not my place. I'm not called to go tell people everybody's wrong and I'm right. It's not
right.
who I am. So
Well, and first of all, that's how Christians are supposed to be, right? Stay in your own lane. Fraternal correction has its place in your sphere of influence, but we don't know other people's. And I think we were talking about this last week. We don't know other people's stories.
we don't know where they stand at that moment with God. God in
Yeah.
them,
And
you
if
know.
you come in with this judgmental, like, or just like pushing your faith, or, you can end up pushing people further away from God and not,
The opposite of what
it's
God
the
wants.
opposite of what God
That's why
wants.
we're called to love mercifully. And when you
Right.
do this, have this compassionate love for others, it's beautiful because you're humbling yourself. You're putting others above you. And I don't say that in a weird way, like, oh,
No.
everyone, it's hard to really describe what I mean by that, but it's really about having that courteous, that like our Lord was a gentleman. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
so is our guardian angel. They wait until we invoke them. So I'm not gonna be like, I'm coming in and I'm gonna tell you what to do. And
Right.
I wait for the invitation. And that's when you have to be receptive, cooperative, and meditative on this Holy Spirit, because you will be called at a certain moment to go minister to somebody. So you have to be aware of that. And that's what I do. I wait for my moment because I have been sent on mission. And Hollywood is the hardest Calcutta I could ever imagine. And that's my mission is in Hollywood. And so God willing, with his grace and his help, I will
In a way, it sounds like you're so surrounded by not Christians, right?
totally.
Or people that aren't acting in a Christian manner, or it doesn't even have to be Christian. I mean, just somebody that is not adding in a virtuous or honorable manner.
Mhm.
Um, and it's almost like, I don't want to say easier, because it's definitely not easier when,
Mhm.
most a higher percentage of people around you don't share your belief system, right?
Mhm.
um it's almost like, okay, well, whatever, I am who I am, so take it or leave it, you
Mhm.
know but living a pure life, I guess, in an impure surrounding, because I
Mhm.
remember when I first went to Southern California and I had a bunch of little children. I had 4 little children at the time. I just looked around and I'm like, I don't get this. I mean, it's just, I mean, even
That's so
on the news, it's like, what's with
I
low
know.
cut tops and the that's not the industry. That's not when I
Oh,
was working
Spanish
in
news
there.
is worse, by the way, because the camera even shows underneath the table. I'm like, God. I'm like, Spanish news is so much worse than the English news. Trust me, I know I worked in Spanish news.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
And so I
Part
thought,
of the reason why I left. But
a
anyway.
hot-blooded Latino, right?
Exactly.
So, and now, so one of the things, and look at the time, I mean, things are really, really clipping along here. But I really like what you're saying about you live joyfully, just being. And I think that's probably a good example to other people. It's like you said, you live the gospel and sometimes use words. It's just being a loving, joyful person is attractive.
Mhm.
And I think as a Christian, we want other people to want what we have. And if we are mean to other people or judgmental with other people, nobody wants to be like that. Nobody
That's not a
wants
good
what
sign
we,
of Christianity.
no, it's
Yeah,
not.
that's very Pharisaic, you know?
Hmm.
It's not what God asks us to be.
Right.
Um, yeah. What's welcoming is people who are hospitable, people who are loving, nurturing,
Right.
merciful.
So
That will contribute to the divinization of his people.
yeah, absolutely. So can you like name drop some good names of people that have been very supportive and encouraging and accepting, I guess you can say, of, because it's just, you look at Hollywood and you go, oh, it's just a den of devils, and the whole of Hollywood just needs to break off and drop in the ocean, and everybody needs to die. I mean, I have heard that more than once
Yeah.
from good Christian people. It's just like so much evil comes out of Hollywood. We'd be better off if it just went away. And I
Yeah.
think I have met so many people, like we were talking about screenwriters and costume designers and cameramen and stunt people. And there are good people making inroads and changes in the industry. And we actually have some good programming coming out that we can actually watch. So are you seeing some of this goodness on the shows that you've done?
I don't watch TV anymore. I
Right.
haven't because I began living an ascetic and monastic life about 4+ years ago. So even though ironically I work in the movie industry and television industry, I don't watch anything unless it's like a movie premiere of a movie I worked on. And of course I would go. I still have fun, but I don't intentionally turn on TV or anything like that.
Mhm.
But I know, yes, there are people in my industry, specifically in my stunt world, that are awesome Christians that are actually trying to stand up for Christ. And I love that so much. Like Emmys, they got SAG awards. I mean, Taurus awards. I mean, this is amazing stuff. And so I really hope and pray that powerful instruments such as these will continue to stand up for Christ. And I have hope. I have so much hope. And so for that reason, I have no reason to fear. And Pope John Paul II would reiterate to us, be not afraid, be not afraid. And so I have to live that way.
Yeah, just so many things about, and I've talked about a lot of people about this, is that when you live each day as if it's your last, right? And I
Mhm.
think it was St. Francis of Assisi. They said, if you knew today the world was going to end, what would you do?
Mhm.
And he said, if I was sweeping the floor, I would just continue sweeping the floor.
Mhm.
I'm going to continue everything I do. I want to be honorable and to honor God. And so if that's what I was doing, I would do my best to sweep the floor, and I'd finish doing it until the world ended.
Mhm.
So it's just one of those things. So speaking of saints, who is your favorite saint?
Ooh, that's hard. I I have a few, but I mean the ultimate favorite saint ultimately is the highest, greatest saint we have, which is our Blessed Mother Mary. She is the best example for a woman. And so it is my job and our role as women to emulate her, imitate her as much as best as we can in
Mhm.
her grace. But along those lines, my patron saint is Saint Mary Magdalene, and I relate to her so much. I feel I love her so much. And then another one that I feel is like my sister and my other favorite saint. So my top three is Saint Clare of Assisi, and I have a special friendship with her as well. And of course, Francis of Assisi. I mean, I want to show you my socks. Is this weird? But I'm wearing Francis of Assisi socks. I mean, there's my beautiful man right here. I love him so much. I mean,
That's great.
my rosary. But yeah, but I love these people so much. I mean, they are such an inspiration to me, and I'm so thankful for these saints because they show us that it is possible to reach that height, the heights of holiness. And so I love them. Yeah.
How old were you when you picked St. Mary Magdalene as your patron saint?
I think she picked me.
Yeah.
I would say 14.
Isn't that interesting? Because I know when my children pick their patron saints, right? It was an interesting procedure. And I truly believe that,
The saints pick us.
yeah, I do. And it's nice to have, no matter what your faith background or whatever, it's just nice to have examples of people who have lived good, moral, amazing lives. And we can turn to them for advice. We can turn to them for help. We can emulate some of the things the good things that they did in their life. One of the things I always loved about St. Mary Magdalene, and you look at who was at the foot of the cross when Jesus was on the cross. It was the women.
It was our Blessed Mother and Saint Mary Magdalene, Saint John of the Cross. I mean, Saint John, the beloved one.
Yeah, Saint John. So I mean, but really, it was the women that were there, and Saint Mary Magdalene. I mean, she stood up to people her whole life. She didn't care what other people thought about her.
She's so amazing.
So I've always really loved and respected
and she was
her.
the first whom Jesus appeared to at the resurrection.
Yes.
I mean, wow, this woman. I mean, she gives so much hope to not just me, but to like everybody, because she was in those days, and even now, I mean, a pretty terrible sinner. Jesus casted 7 demons from her. If you think about 7 deadly sins, 7 deadly vices, that's all of them. She committed and broke every commandment possible and committed every vice. And he healed her from her. And what happened? She was the most thankful, grateful young woman and never turned back. She never looked back. She just followed God. Now that's amazing. And that's why I love her so much.
Yeah, she is amazing. She is so amazing. Cool. So, and speaking of being at the foot of the cross, talking about the Holy Land, you are arranging a pilgrimage.
I am. And I hope you guys can join me. All of you who are watching, please join me. I hope that there will be certitude in going at the end of this year. Of course, we can never be so sure right now because COVID is still ongoing.
Right.
However, the hope and the plan is that I'll be leaving with a bunch of people to the Holy Land, including one of my favorite priests. We would leave after Thanksgiving, so the weekend after Thanksgiving.
Oh, okay.
And we would come back on the Feast of the Immaculate Conception, December 8th. December 7th or 8th, one of those two.
Right.
I know her feast is on the 8th, but we might come back the day before. We'll see. I have to confirm. But I would love if you guys can join. I would be helping, leading and showing around. But I'm not the tour guide. I'm just the host. But I'll be providing spiritual reflections, prayer. I'd be happy to meet all of you. It's going to be a good time. It's not only going to be fun, but it's going to be deep, because I enjoy the profound things of God and to transcend everything that I see and experience. And I hope that you'll be willing to join me. So
good. Well, I'll have all that information of how to contact you and everything.
Yeah.
It's going to all be in the show notes.
I would love that.
So people can reach out to you there. And final question.
Sure.
Now, looking back on your life, looking back at the younger you, what advice now, as the adult who's already been through it all, what advice would you give your younger self?
Don't care about the harsh people that try to destroy the good and the joy that's in the inside of you. Because I had an encounter with evil, unfortunately. And as a young girl, I have always had a very innocent, pure, even naive outlook in life. And, having had a terrible experience before, it changes a lot of things, though I'm grateful. And this is a whole other talk, my friends, but it's part of my testimony. So I went through a phase of depression and desolation, and it was very bad, actually. But I learned so much from it, and I gained so much more compassion. But what I'm saying is that there's people that I've come across after I got healed from this temporary circumstantial depression that I went through in desolation, who tried to steal and destroy and kill the joy that God had restored in me. Because I've always been joyful, but there was a moment in my life that joy, well, my friends say they still saw me joyful, but I didn't feel it. But apparently I still was. That's a gift. Apparently. Anyway, so but there's people who want they want to steal that from you out of envy. So be careful, but don't be afraid of anybody. Still love your people, but just I look at that and I say, there's learn discernment at a younger age, and that's why discernment is so important. So that's what I would tell my younger self, to learn the ways of the spirit, and to learn discernment, to learn what's really from God and what isn't. So.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. Well, wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. We could go on forever and ever, ever.
I know.
So I'll have you back on and we'll talk about,
Absolutely.
maybe we'll go through your whole, your story, your testimony.
Oh, absolutely.
Talk about that.
And
too.
all the things that I do as a public speaker. I mean, there's so much that I am so excited to share, and there's just no time now.
I know.
We ran out of time. That's funny.
We try to keep it to 20 minutes. Yeah, that
Oh
wasn't
my
going to
goodness,
happen. Yeah.
that was not 20 minutes at all.
I have no idea. I haven't even looked at the time, although
That's
I
funny.
did see my phone go off. So it's probably my assistant saying, your next appointment is waiting.
I know.
So, but thank you for being here. And
I
again,
appreciate you so much.
yeah,
Thank
I
you,
appreciate
Colleen.
you too. I'm just
I'm
so glad
honored.
that we have met, and that now we're lifelong friends. I feel
I
like
love it.
I said at my team meeting a couple of weeks ago, I said, oh my gosh, I felt like it was like my long lost sister, that I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't talked to you in so long. So
I know. And I was like, we had to hang up because we both had appointments
Yeah.
after like 2 hours of talking, and we could have kept talking. I was like, oh my goodness. You're a blessing. And I'm so honored and privileged that I got to be on your show today.
Oh, thank you. I feel blessed and honored as well. So we'll be friends for a very long time.
Oh,
So,
amen.
anyway, if you're listening to this on the podcast, make sure you check out the show notes, or where you can follow Brenda and get more information about her, schedule her as a speaker, go with her to the pilgrimage and go to the Holy Land, or whatever else you want to do as far as third. And of course, we do, since this is a new podcast, we do need those 5-star ratings. If you want to do a 2, 3, or 4-star, don't worry about it. Just don't bother. But if you want to write us a 5-star review, we could sure help get us back up into the ratings and make this into a show that will bless and hopefully encourage others. So thanks for being with us today. And thank you again, Brenda.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Take care. God bless. And we will see you next time.
Thank you.
There it is. Isn't she amazing? Wasn't that great? I think part 2 was better than part 1, but part 1 was really good too. So again, look at the show notes, and the show notes will give you links to the entire interview, so you can just go listen to it on the podcast. So if you missed part 1, you can go listen to part 1 on the podcast. And if you're like me, I have speed controls. So I use my speed controls I listen to all my podcasts on 1.5 speed. So it won't take you 45 minutes. Or if you listen on 2 times speed, it'll only take you the 20 minutes that we were shooting for. But it is funny that her and I, when we did our pre-interview talk, because we hadn't met before, and I like to speak with people before we go on the interview. So I know their pacing and a little bit of their stories, and then I go online and I listen to any interviews they've done in the past and that type of thing. So I like to talk to people for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes before. And her and I just had such a hard time connecting. And I think it was, who tried to keep us apart. But we were supposed to only talk for a few minutes because we both had appointments, like we said at the end of the interview. And we were on the phone for almost 2 hours. And it was actually a Zoom call. It was like, oh my gosh, look what time it is. I have to go. She said, I have to go too. So then we got on so then we get in to do the interview, and we said, okay, this is what we want to talk about, kind of do a mental outline of where I want to go. The hardest part of any interview, really, especially being a guest, I like to know ahead of time kind of an outline of what people want to do. But the hardest part is just getting started and then closing. A harder part is really closing. Really, Lisa, I think you'll get a kick out of part 1. Yeah, anybody can listen to the podcast, Liz. And if you don't have, like my husband, he does not have a podcast. He doesn't listen. He listens to a bunch of podcasts, but not through a podcast service. So if you go to the second link that's in the show notes where it's mine, that's actually the one that's, here it is. My personal podcast page. You use 2x speed too, Lisa. I kind of thought you might. We got to get things done. But yeah, it's you can listen to the entire thing on my website, my personal website page, or my personal podcast page. You can just listen there. But if you subscribe to any podcast platform, I have applied and been accepted to all of them. Matter of fact, I was accepted onto Amazon's podcast platform, and people are apparently trying really hard to get on there, and I was accepted right away. And when I was accepted, I think I had 3 reviews maybe. So apparently now they're just taking anybody because, but yeah, whatever podcast platform you use, I'm there. And if I'm not on one that you use, let me know. I mean, I'm on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, just all over the place. And well, nobody knows about that. That's a kind of a Chartable is where we're trying to get on right now. But Chartable is, you really have to, anyway, that's a behind the scenes thing. So I'm going to read this one aloud, Lisa. Time slips away during divine connections. That's choking me up. I'm kind of getting tears in my eyes. That is so true. And that's how I felt when Brenda and I started talking. Like I said, it was like a long lost sister that I was reconnecting with, that somebody I hadn't spoke to, and like a family member I hadn't spoke to, a beloved family member I hadn't spoke to in a long time. But yeah, it just time flew. And I felt that way when I did this interview with Rosie Aiello about her story about escaping an abusive and toxic relationship in a foreign country and getting back here to the States after 25 years in a foreign country. So she was no longer a citizen here, and her daughter was not born here. So they had to escape from there. So her and I got to talking, and they were on their way to midnight mass, and she had this overwhelming urge to just open the door and throw herself out into the traffic because things had gotten that bad. And the only reason she didn't was because of her daughter. And her daughter had a similar experience where things had gotten so bad in the household growing up with an abusive father that she wanted to leave this corporal world. She wanted to harm herself and didn't because she couldn't do that to her mom. So the two of them really saved each other. It's a beautiful story. I can't wait to share. It's not on for a couple of weeks. Thanks, Lisa. Yeah, I got couldn't comment. My page wasn't allowing it. Oh, that's weird. How strange. Well, I'm glad you're here, Kathy. I'm glad was it on Facebook or YouTube? Because Facebook, is an issue. Yeah. Oh, hugs to you too. Thank you. So anyway, let me see. Rick said, I missed this one. Parts of her story reminded me of a time when a person warned me to take reference to Catholicism off my website because people might not trust Catholics to be around their children these days, and it might cost me some jobs. Yeah, YouTube, really strange, Kathy. That's a concern. You know, I've spoken with a couple of people who are Catholic, but they're in the public eye. And, you know, it's just like people in the public eye don't make a big thing about being a Christian or being Jewish or being Methodist. Or, to me, it's you live your faith. And when you live your faith, that should be what shines through. So, for example, when I have podcast guests, they have a form that they fill out as part of scheduling their time slot to be interviewed, because I only interview 1 or 2 days a week, and I try to cluster them all together. And in there, it says, I have a Christian audience, no cussing. So, you know, and in the emails that they get leading up to their reminders to their appointment for their interview, there's a reminder in there, no cussing, you know. So to me, it's part of living your faith and not having to brag about it or show it off. And Brenda talked about that, about being on set and just making friends and loving and accepting people, because you don't know where they are. You don't know their backstory. You don't know where they are with God. And just living the gospel. Pardon me. Without words. You don't have to put a label. So I go back and forth on that. You know, it's not that I'm ashamed or embarrassed of my faith. It's like, I don't think I need to label myself that way. I'm hoping my actions of just living the gospel will tell that story. So I don't know, kind of go back and forth. You find it faster on Facebook. I think you're the only one that's ever said that, Liz. I have almost totally abandoned the book simply because of how hard it is for people to find me, because that's why I just give the link to my main Facebook page and then you link out, because the Facebook made it that when you schedule a live broadcast, that's like an advertisement. Then when you go live, it's a different link. It used to be the same link. So, and that's why I abandoned. Did anybody get a Facebook message from me this morning? Oh, look at all these text messages. Oh, here's Brenda. Aw. Hey, sweet friend. Oh, Brenda just sent me a very long text message. Aw, she's so sweet. But it should be easy to, and I pay for a service to use Facebook Messenger to send out text messages. And I just checked, because I get my own text messages to make sure they're going out. I want to see how they're formatted. I see what the time delay is and the, X number of people that get it and that type of thing. And I didn't get it. You didn't get it, Christine? Yeah. Actions speak louder than words. And that's how I look at it, Lisa. I was talking to a spiritual leader yesterday, I think. Doesn't matter. And that's the exact same thing that we were talking about. It was last night. And that's the exact same thing we were talking about. It's when you live a virtuous life and your character, and Brenda talked about that. It's your character. I think that was in part 1. It's your character that gets you jobs. It's your character that gets you ahead. Oh, and I watched, somebody sent me a Simon Sinek video where he used to work with Navy SEALs. And he draws this 4-point quadrant, and Navy SEALs, like, do you want to work with somebody that's really, really, really competent and good, like the best skills, or somebody that's very, very trustworthy? So it's kind of like this, and then you make the 4 boxes. And they have found in business, Navy SEALs are, the number 1 trained special forces, right? Special ops. And they would rather work with, do you trust somebody? Do you want to work with somebody who's really good at what they do, or that you would trust them with your money, with your wife? So they found that on SEAL teams, they preferred to work with somebody that maybe had minimum skills, but was extremely trustworthy, because there's no man left behind. And you want to be able to trust that person to take you home, right? So they find that in business as well. So Simon Sinek talked about, I have to find the link to that. And I just saw it the other day, so it should be easy to find, the SEAL team. And then I'll share that, Simon Sinek. Because I haven't mastered the content, so it's hard to re-explain. You know how you understand something and then you try to explain it to somebody else, and you're like, yeah, I can't remember how to say. But SEAL teams would rather work with somebody they so totally trusted that was an okay operator, that was skilled. I mean, they wouldn't be on a SEAL team if they weren't skilled, right? But maybe not the top skilled, but they're skilled. But they were really, really trust them, as opposed to somebody that was really super skilled, but they were sketchy on whether or not they would trust them. So trust is character. And when people can trust you, those are the people that should be in leadership positions. And that was Simon's whole point in this training, where he said, oftentimes he'll go into companies and he'll say, who's the jerk? And everybody knows it's the same person. So he talks one-on-one with people like, who's the jerk? Him. The same name comes up all the time. He's the one that ends up, because his skills are so high, they promote the people with high skills to management positions. So now if you watch The Office, Michael was that way. Michael was a top salesman. And so they promoted him to manager. So now Michael is the head of the office and he's the manager, but he's not a good manager. He was a great salesman, which is why they promoted him to management, but not a good manager. It's the same thing in life. It's the people that you trust, that have the good character, that live virtuous lives, that are the ones that you want to be your leader or you want to be associated with. So I will find that and I will put it Probably, you know what? I'm going to send that out in my Friday email. Write myself a note so I remember to do that. Actually, I don't do my Friday emails. Friday Fab. Because that was so good. All right, so if you're on my email list, you'll get an email for it. Less experience, but more integrity. That's it. Oh, good, Lisa. Well, that's interesting because I used to pay. I just checked too that I don't even actually pay for that. I went onto that tab and it's like I have the free version now. I don't even have the pay pro version. But Kathy didn't get one. Liz did. Oh, the text message, good. But no, yeah, the text message is I pay a lot of money for that text message service, and I'm very, very bummed that more people are not using that because. To me, it's a way for me to communicate one-on-one with people. So I can send out, like this morning, I sent out a group text saying, hey, I'm live right now. Here's the link. And I always give the YouTube link. But now that Liz says it's easier to find me on Facebook, I'll go back to sending out both links. But I like the text messaging. I can talk one-on-one with people. I have to be really careful with it. I usually check it twice a day the past couple of weeks because I said in the pre-show that I'm going through some health issues right now. That I haven't been as up to checking it on twice a day. I'll check it maybe once a day at night or something. But I'm getting better at I just I spiraled into this kind of a depressed thing. I hate that. So it was not productive. And I just kind of like boo-hooed. You know how you just kind of get when things really hit you hard, and things have been going so well in my life and business, and it just seemed like every time I got started going, I had a health issue, or I got started going and something happened with my dad and he got cancer. Then I got going and then something happened with my mom. She fell, and then I was her guardian, and it's like, and then things get going, and then I was in the car accident, and I was rear-ended at 55 miles an hour and busted up my back and my head and my brain and all that kind of stuff. So I was offline for a year. Or almost a year. So it just seems like every time things start going well, something happens. And so things were going so well, and then nothing was happening. I'm like, yes, this is it. And then I've been having these health issues. And then I just got super depressed. I thought, here we go again, where things are just clipping along, and all of a sudden I'm sick. I'm like, whoa, boo-hoo. So anyway, I kind of snapped out of it a couple of days ago and went, this is not productive. I just sat down and had a heart-to-heart talk with myself and decided that things had to change. So anyway, I get a notification on Facebook as soon as you're live. Yeah, the only way to know if you're live on YouTube is go to YouTube and get your page there. Yeah, because if you follow on YouTube, you'll get an email that says, hey, by the way, Colleen is live on her page. So make sure you subscribe. And you know what's funny? There's people on YouTube that I have known for years that I just went in and looked at some analytics. Like, she's not here today. But I've already, actually I haven't texted her yet, texted the other person, but there's people I've known for years. They don't even like my Facebook page. So like Rick, you obviously get notifications because you follow me on my business page, but she's a friend of mine. So she follows my personal page, and she comments and stuff, and she's usually here in the mornings, but she doesn't even, I'm like, you gotta like my Facebook page. That helps my numbers. So anyway, so I'm going to scoot on out of here. I've got a lot of things to do today because I've been boo-hooing and crying and spilling my milk the past week or two. So I'm a little bit behind on some stuff, but give yourself grace. I have been quiet for months publicly. I totally understand. So you get it. You noticed you were kind of quiet too. But yeah, so I got some things to catch up on, and then we had an editor that didn't work out, and we had, tech issues in the back end, and now that we're doing this as a podcast, that comes with a whole new can of worms of new things we have to learn and software we have to learn and platforms and whatnot. So yes, just again, a reminder, if anybody can just go to Apple Podcasts and write a quick review, please 5 stars. It's easier to do from your phone. You just go to My Podcast on your phone. And I'm pretty sure that all you need to do is you go to Apple Podcasts, you go to My Podcast. Oops, stop. How does that work? Oh, there you go. So then there's, let me see. Yeah, you scroll down to ratings reviews. So you just scroll down to the ratings reviews, click see all, and then there's a little spot. Let me see if you can see it. No, you can't see it. There's a little spot. Yeah, you can see it. It's like right there below all the empty stars where you just tap that. It says write a review. So it's easier to do it on Apple Podcasts right from your phone. So you go to My Apple, scroll down to the ratings and reviews, and then put see, I think it was see all. Yeah, see all next to ratings and reviews, because right now I have 4 ratings. You click the see all, and then there's a little spot that you can write a review. And that would help out tremendously. So anyway, alrighty. Your best friend doesn't even have Facebook. I'm telling you, I'm getting away from the book. I'm just, and really haven't, this is really right now in a very small private community that I'm doing this on my website, ColleenHammond.com/community. I am developing my own community. I'm just doing my own thing right there. I'm trying to learn how to do a lot. I bought the software, and it's connected to my personal page, and it's also connected inside all of my memberships. I'm putting a link to it. I haven't done it yet. We're training somebody in Kartra. So, and Kartra's going through all this stuff. And so it's super buggy right now. It keeps deleting things. But I'm building my own community, because people are like, I'm leaving Facebook and going over to MeWe, and I'm going over to SPQ, and I'm going to Mighty, and people are going, like, leaving Facebook and going all over the place. I'm like, no matter where you go, I've stopped saying like, no matter where you go, somebody else runs it. So I wanted something where I ran it, and I'm in control of it, and there's no advertising on it. It's just, I paid for it. It's on my website. Boom, done. So again, if you're on my email list, you'll be getting information about that. I was going to do it this week, but there's still some bugs I'm working out. So I'm going to wait another week before I invite thousands of people to come to the platform, because I don't want it to like, boom, crash. So anyway, alrighty. Great interview. Good. I'm glad you liked it, Carrie Ann. Chin up, you're awesome, love you, have a wonderful, thanks, Kathy. You bring a lot to the market, which takes a lot of energy. It does, so be gentle on yourself. You are a blessing. Thank you. I am on Clubhouse, but from a marketer's point of view, maybe you and I need to talk about this. I've been on Clubhouse since the end of November, beginning of December, and as a marketer, I look at it and I can't figure out how to monetize it unless you're on there all the blasted time. And my friend Judy Fox, who's like, oh, I should have her on the podcast. Judy's huge. She's like one of the top 10. Forbes named her one of the top 10 LinkedIn experts. So she figured out a way how to use Clubhouse and link it to LinkedIn. So that I would do. But you can't. It's live, right? So once it's done, it's done. There's no recording you can't refer people to. The only link it links out to is Instagram. So you can't put any hyperlinks inside your bio or anything like that. So if you figured it out, Lisa, like how to monetize it, instead of being on there all the time and being a moderator, that's the only way I figured out. And that's what Judy is. She's on like 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day. I don't have that kind of time. I'm building a perfume product right now that was supposed to be done for Valentine's, but I was, curled up in a tiny little furry ball on the sofa, boo-hooing into my, stuff. So, I can't figure Clubhouse how to, as a marketer, how to really monetize it unless you're on there all the time. The people I know that are very successful on Clubhouse are on about 5 hours a day or more. And I don't know that kind of time. 5 hours a day? I don't think I like anything that much. I want to be doing it 5 hours a day. So, okay, good. Then you reach out to me, Lisa, and tell me how. Because now Lisa and I are just having a conversation. Anyway, nobody's going to watch this video. It's an hour long, and Brenda's portion's only 20 minutes. So, the bar across the top bottom is helpful. Good. Thank you for letting me know. I don't think anybody said anything on that one, so I was a little bit curious, because when I edit it to put that in there, I like it when I'm watching videos. I want to know where about I am in it, and if I should go up to 2x as opposed to 1.75 or 1.5. So I just like the fact that there's the progress bar across the bottom. It lets me know how much more time or how much time I should set aside if I see that bar moving really slow. Like a Joe Rogan podcast is 3 hours long. So I don't know why I'm, worried about a 20-minute or 45 minutes. So anyway, yeah, perfume. It's all about perfume, but it's also, didn't even notice the progress bar. Interesting. It's just in the interview that I did with Brenda. It's visual. So it just shows where we're at in the interview across the bottom. And the software that I use to do it only does 30-minute interviews, so I couldn't do it on a full 47 interview. That's part of the reason I had to divide it into two. But the guy who's the owner of, it's Wave Video, WAVE.video. And it's a really nice, it's just a new feature that they introduced. So I threw it on there because I like it. I think it's really cool. But I can put it anywhere. I can put it, on the left, the right, across the top, across the bottom. So I'm just going to play with it because some people don't see it because it's below the play, like when you put the, what do you call those? The tools. So sometimes you can't see it, which is also why I have the box that I put around and then have our names underneath. Because we record on Zoom and it's just ugly. You got these two squares and this big black background. So I put a different overlay over the top of it so that you can see the person's name and their contact information of where they want to be contacted. That's right there on the screen the entire time. So anyway, I got to get going. Yeah, I got to get going. You'll figure out where to leave a review. Good. Thanks, Lisa. And connect with me on Clubhouse and let's figure this out together because I've been on it for months and everybody's trying to get on. I'm like, I'm there. I just don't know what to do with it. And one of my mentors, Shalene Johnson, she won't do it. She said, I can't connect. I can do a podcast and get feedback. I can look at my numbers and say, where, this, and this. But on Clubhouse, I can't even engage with people. You can't give likes or comments. And so I'm still figuring it out. Anyway, alrighty, let's get out of here. Where's my software? There it is. Alrighty. Yeah, that's crazy stuff, Liz. It's like new social media. Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, take care. God bless. And make sure you tune in next week. I'm interviewing Dagmar Bryant. And it's shorter, so we can do it all at once. But she's got some great helpful information. I'll be sending out some info on her later. All right. Take care. God bless. Have a great day. Bye.